Hi everyone, this is Marianne and welcome to my channel. Today I am happy to give you this video about the Kokuyo business paper that I ordered online. This came directly from Japan. I ordered it via a shopping app that is available in several countries in Southeast Asia. I will link it down below. As you can see, all of the markings on the external box are in Japanese, and I have actually already cut the tape open so that I can inspect the item right when it was delivered. And I just wasn't able to film this video right away, so I'm doing it now. The box is squished in this part, but the paper wasn't destroyed at all. But when I make a new order from the same store for more paper, I will make sure to request additional padding inside the box. Here is the squished corner of the paper, but in my experience, with so many different kinds of paper, as long as the paper is just bent and not creased, the bend in the paper will straighten out over time, especially if you press it flat like in a book press or under other notebooks and books. So here is the actual paper, and the label says it's the Kokuyo business paper. On the side it says it's the B5 size, and the paper weight is 64 GSM. Just to give you an idea, the Tomoe River paper is 52 GSM, and the Elias paper that I normally use to make notebooks and which I have videos of on my channel is 90 GSM. So this Kokuyo business paper is definitely lighter and thinner than the Elias paper, but it is heavier and thicker than the Tomoe River paper. However, Kokuyo paper is well known to work very nicely with fountain pens. So to test this out, I am using my Wingsung 698 fountain pen with a fine nib. The ink inside is Diamine Kelly Green. The writing feels very smooth because the paper is very smooth. I do not feel any snags at all, and I do not feel or see any texture on the paper. And the writing looks really nice on the paper. My handwriting is really just very bad. My handwriting had gotten worse after I stopped handwriting things last year, but you can still see from the writing sample that there is no feathering of the ink and no spreading of the ink on the paper, and it even shows very nice shading. Shading is that quality of fountain pen writing where some parts of the lines are darker than others because the dark parts are where the ink pools a little more, so when it dries, it just looks darker. I think it's very pretty, and in my opinion, a paper is fountain pen friendly if it shows that shading, plus if it does not feather, and if it does not bleed through. When we look at the back, as you can see, the ink really does not bleed through the paper. There is just some ghosting, which can be expected of thin paper, but the ghosting here is not more pronounced than the ghosting on the Tomoe River paper. I have printed out a 5mm dot grid on this paper, and I'm always very careful that the dots align back to back. I'm trying to show you here by shining a light through the paper, and we should be able to see only one set of dot grid, which means the dot grid on the back side of this paper is completely aligned with the dot grid on the front side. We should not see a second set of dot grid ghosting through the paper in the wrong place. I hope I'm making sense, but I will show you the final result later. And the reason why I bought this paper is because a bunch of people have been requesting me to make a B6 notebook for a couple of years already, but I didn't have access to the right size of paper, and I was not very confident in cutting A4 sized paper into B5, which I can then fold in half to make B6. So I am very glad that I finally have the B5 in my hands. And it's Kokuyo paper, a paper that is very well loved by fountain pen users. I am so sorry if you can hear some barking. Our dogs usually cavort around the yard at this time of the afternoon. So anyway, the way I decided to structure the notebook is to have signatures as usual, but each signature will have 7 sheets of paper, and there will be 14 signatures in a single text block, so that the notebook will have a total of 392 pages. So if you're looking to DIY your own planner and assign 1 page per day, 392 pages will suffice for the 365 days of 1 1 year, plus additional pages for notes. 392 pages is 196 sheets of paper, but because it can be used back to back, just multiply that by 2. So you really do have 392 pages to use at your disposal. This here is the finished notebook. As you can see, the covers and the spine are exactly the same appearance as all of the other notebooks that I make. A playlist for the notebooks will be linked down below. The cover is made of 3 sheets of 200 GSM white cardstock glued together, so it's very sturdy, and the spine is covered by a light gray fabric. The spine has these ridges, which are actually the stitching. This specific notebook has the unique serial number of 657. All of the notebooks that I make have a unique serial number. And these are the inside pages of the 5mm dot grid. The color of the ink is a light gray, so it's still very visible. But once your writing is already on the page, you will not notice the dots anymore. And that is really the purpose of the dot grid pattern. It is just a guide for writing, and it is not really meant to be visible after the writing is already on the page. Now, this notebook is designed to stay open and lie flat, and you can even bend the notebook backwards and the binding will not come apart. That is because of the kind of stitching that I have done on the spine of all of the notebooks that I make. When you use the notebook more, like opening and closing it like a million times, the spine will start curving into a C shape here, which will of course make the foredge also curve into a C shape, which will make the notebook so much cuter in my opinion. And it will curve into an even tighter C shape if you tend to paste some mementos and sticky notes onto the pages themselves. It will bulk up the notebook, but the binding will not come apart. The C shape on the spine and the foredge is just going to look a little tighter. Now here is a closer look at the 5mm dot grid. As you can see, the exact middle of the notebook is also right in the middle of the printing of the dot grid. And as I flip through the pages, you can see that the alignment of the dots are all the same. Here is the part where the stitching is visible on one signature. There is one short stitch at the top, a slightly longer stitch in the middle, and a shorter stitch at the bottom. The notebook has 14 signatures, like I said, so you will see 14 of these exposed stitching as you go through the notebook. Finally, to show you that this is indeed a B6 notebook, let us measure. The width is 127 millimeters. And my ruler is too short for this notebook, so using a tape measure, you can see that the height is 181 or 182 millimeters. And those are the same measurements as the Kokuyo Campus B6 notebook. You can confirm that if you just do a Google search. And the thickness of the notebook is 21 millimeters. Now, as to a notebook cover, unfortunately, I am not yet very familiar with this B6 size, so I cannot recommend a ready-made cover. But if you are looking for a B6 notebook with Kokuyo paper inside, this is what you can order from me. I can also make this in 3mm dot grid, 5mm rule, 7mm rule, 5mm graph, and blank. And I will also be able to make this in A5 and A6 sizes, also with 392 pages. Thanks for watching. Bye.